So it's the 22nd of March, 2016, Tuesday, and there's been a blast in Brussels airport terminal. Brussels airport, they've blown out a load of windows. They reckon it was somebody must have been in the queue probably for the checkout. They said checkout, so I don't know if it's check-in, check-out. My guess is they're trying to check in. They only just recently changed the system in Brussels from reading up on it, researching it. And everybody goes to the connector, as it's called. It's a kind of corridor, passageway, big broad looking hall place. And from there you're kind of vetted a little bit somehow. I don't know if it's however it's done, but you can then go to the various gates, B gates and A gates and stuff. I've never been there, but that's what research shows. And so, you know, that's yet another terrorist attack which you think is on the back of this Salah Abdeslam character having been caught, the man who was the survivor of the active attackers who participated, actually physically participated. There's more behind the scenes, but physically participated in the Paris shootings last year, 2015. Now, I get the impression that some people must think I am anti-Muslim, which is not the case. The impression must be gained because my daughter said to me the other day, she was going out with somebody, going to meet a couple of friends, and one of the friends was called Roshan or something. I'm deliberately fogging the name, but it's something like Roshan. And she said, she's not Muslim, you know. And I said, what? I said, it's all right. I said, you can go out with somebody Muslim if you want. You can go cinema. You can go do stuff. I said, it's your friends, it's not my friends. I said, don't get the impression that I am anti-Muslim. I am probably anti whichever terrorist organisation it is at the time that's causing the most trouble. I have some good stories about Muslims. Here's one. I bought a car from a guy in Leicester, and there's quite a lot of Muslims in Leicester. And I'll cut a long story short, the car wasn't very good. But I didn't know that until I'd driven it a few miles up the motorway, back up towards Yorkshire. So I drove those few miles and realised it was awful. So I rang the guy up. And he'd been a very decent bloke, you know. He invited me in and we had a chat and he gave me a cup of tea and I paid the money. It was only a few £100s, it wasn't thousands of pounds, it was hundreds of pounds. And I phoned him up when I got back. I think it was either that night or the next day, and I said, look, there's something strange about the gearbox. So to cut a long story short, the wrong gearbox had been fitted to this car. Right, so what I expected was a load of abuse, or at the very least fob off or whatever, right? In fact, what he said was, now not everyone will agree with this, but what he said was, if you bring the car back, I'll give you all your money back. And he said, there's no rush, but if you bring it back, I'll give you all your money back. And I thought to myself, well, I will have to get the bus, but it's only a few quid on the bus to come back. To get my hundreds of pounds back, it's probably worth it. So I went all the way down to Leicester in the car, and I don't know if I'd already bought the ticket or not, but I got the ticket, got in the coach on the way back, and yeah, it was inconvenient, but I got all my hundreds of pounds back, and the guy apologised very much, and he gave me every single penny I'd paid him the couple of days or the week before. All I can say is that there's plenty of white guys that would have sold me that car, and then not been available on the phone, changed their number, answering messages, or you get fobbed off, you get abuse. I'm going through the various stages of seriousness. And if you turned up at the door, he'd further fob you off and say that, you know, he sold the car as seen. Alright, now, that's an old one that's used. I'll not go into all that stuff. So, and a friend of mine, moving on from that, a friend of mine way back when said, now we in this country in the UK we used to call Muslims Asians, and some people still do it, but I tend not to do it because I know that my second biggest audience is in North America. Not that I have a big audience at all, but my second biggest audience is in North America, the other two people who watch these videos. And those those people will think when I say Asian, I mean someone Chinese or Japanese or something like that. So I never use the term Asian now. Plus, it doesn't convey very much, whereas, you know, Muslim conveys a whole culture as well as roughly the region where people are from, to a massive area. You know, that's about as rough as you get. So a friend of mine used to say, "Oh, at least if I see a bunch of Asian kids, I know there's not going to be trouble. You know, if you're walking down the street on your own, and there's a bunch of Asian youths, as he called them, as I would say, Muslim youths come towards you." He said, "At least you know there's not going to be trouble." Now, what was interesting was I spoke to him recently about this. The past couple of years, I spoke to him about this, and he said that's no longer the case. He said, "Now I'm wary of what's going to happen." Okay, so there has been a whole kind of sea change in mindset. The liberal white people, who are completely normal, average people, have now become very slightly hostile, or at the very least guarded, towards the Muslim population. Now, there's probably a big difference between hostile and guarded, to be honest. And probably guarded is a fairer description. Wary, guarded, you know. What else are you going to do? So, in some ways, it's not the Muslim population in general's fault what's happened. But in other ways, there are issues that the Muslim population has to sort out in order that they not be blamed or held almost as much accountable for harbouring criminals, terrorist criminals, as if they were part of it. The classic example has just occurred in the last week. Molenbeek in Brussels, in Belgium. The guy, Salah Abdeslam, was there for months. It appears more or less he left Paris. He may have driven round a bit, maybe tried to get across a border or two. I don't think so. I think he's gone straight to Molenbeek. And he may have moved around houses there, but essentially he's been in touch with his family and he stayed in Molenbeek, the area where he came from, and he's only one street over from where his house is that he used to live when he was in Molenbeek. So, on the surface, the police are fools. But of course, what's happened in practice is the community has closed ranks. That's the only way that a guy like that can be in that area and not be picked up. Now, why does the community close ranks? There are just two reasons why communities do this. One, no one wants to be a snitch. You ask people in Ireland if anyone was keen